Hello, Bravo Network and CBS have people involved with FBI Director Robert Luskin and various courts and their family members in intimate ties, switching names and forging names, and planting evidences with news, and having media people enter social companies um, pretend fake things and be talking heads, quote, talking heads, unquote, as one of the also as collusion slash S with families into branch and intelligence tied to them, even where and how they haven't designated that they recorded themselves, recorded capacity demonstrating and confirming this. Also, where and how they don't understand to an extent because of where and of how all locations, areas, and states are being and haven't been used remotely, criminally, for enable, tactically delusions raw. Connecticut's news locations have collusion with, for example, fake conversations with me that WFSB pretended, Connecticut's Channel 3 News, as their collusion slash S recorded after the World Trade Center with World Trade Center attack predicate acts. Fake conversations that also had that a part of them. They pretended I had fake conversations with themselves and with others about the World Trade Center attack and about legal cases. Increasingly, they are communicating and demonstrating involved with people intelligence at and next to the news locations like Connecticut's Channel 3 News. They have roles of people that have been planting predicate access databases and then acting tied to that note. Criminally for influence predicate acts with at databases with overt criminal enterprises and private ones. See, they are mixed with our schools in ways, also with the military, foreign and domestic, in ways that they're directed to hide from ourselves. But they have been using those truths for lies, the way the breaching method showed them they needs to. Increasingly, people tied to a Mazzucato's bakery, a Reno Mazzucato, and his family members I never had a word of conversation with. In other words, they're increasingly involved along Route 3 with the state judicial branch offices and with Weathersfield Police with wire crime action methods and mail crime action methods that are hyper additional to their rules, stacking fake police reports, fake ties to kids in the form of fake conversations at the police report, at the police station, faked into databases, pretended audio and video with people involved with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, a whole bunch of different countries, including Saudis, how we are shared here and there at campuses. And the roles with the Saudi attackers used effectively to maintain complete possession slash hyper possession over syntactical defenses, non-defenses, and self-out uses of our names as America and as Saudi Arabia being haven't been used by a hyper additional, hyper foreign involved, like for example, that breaching method that slavery was about and is about. It has other things, others ourselves blamed right where that's a scientific value, an answer about what it was about. A human fact should be nature. Breaching method is one of the things that is true always. What slavery was about, and it was entrenched before America's founders were born, and it had a part of that internationally monitored conversations that were relative to everyone's syntax at all locations slash S, not just with intercolonies, more than 13, and America's founders weren't even born yet, and rules with that were sustained. And what that caused too was also measured and maintained, blamed on other things, others ourselves, through our own, as the human species body of individual bodies, A through Z, now through systems tactical ulterior. From that one that teaches us about difference, we have the same color eyes, different color eyes at the same time. See, they have been using their differences into branch, including their religious differences and their sexual differences and preferences, and other people's lying about what they think about it, lying about what is recorded. See, they recorded themselves planting evidences and then pretending others simultaneously while being and having been used remotely for that. They had time collusions timed at the World Trade Center and at spots next to it, with ones increasingly from Weathersfield, Connecticut, involved intercities and intra-cities, and intercampuses and intra-campuses, and all along routes like Route 3 and Route 175, being and having been influenced some ways by their own family, some ways by the families of interbranch, foreign and domestic at the same time. Now, how that's recorded is how they have time collusions with other names and family members of other countries at corners of streets. The corner of streets in Old Weathersfield on Church Street, Heather Hansen and Joe DeMorrow said there are houses at the corners of streets with them, involved with people at the corner of Town Line Drive and South Street Highway. Also with the names Kerr and Perron with that corner, and a whole bunch of people tied to them with foreign and domestic intelligence. I don't know all their names. And my past neighbors recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. Also the place. They have roles with the predicate acts with some intelligence and foreign and people involved with the Saudi attackers, Pakistan, Afghan leaders and kids, a whole bunch of people at and next to Harvard Hospital and involved with UConn and Trinity College and Central Connecticut State University that are families that had intelligence roles there. They've been putting predicate acts there and next to it. They have been putting with their teachers fake things in databases, identity theft, fraud, slinders at the same time with the news locations and with and as names next to the news locations increasingly tied by that. And by the time the use /S of that roles with all kinds of natures of organized crimes and recorded use /S of body dumping spots and names next to them missed, but it's recorded. See, but we have we have defenses of people have only heard people defending the differences, like, oh, the police, you speak good or bad about the police or good or bad about the court. And they're leaving out the witch trials are all about understanding the differences between the guilt of the police, the courts, the political voices or the equivalent, in other words, and exceptions and the communications locations, time collusions with different /S of that too. The whole arrays of opinions that are collusion /S. This is self-valued here and at other countries because of how locations, areas, and states stayed criminally foreign influence, tactical delusions, raw sciences, and styles, needs, and natures pretending other. So what they are doing is also as sense and sensibilities, to use Jane Austen's phrase, but for the nature's definition of it, with the not, in other words, sensing when people speak about predicate acts proper, black pupils, whites of eyes. I'm not even a lawyer. It's about a predicate acts with facts method, reassigning what that communicates, what is demonstrated to us by nature with that. Nature's method of communications with us. It shows us that fish have two eyes, birds have two eyes. There's a nature of consciousness, even that bugs have. We are distinct but non-distinct, and we are simultaneous, but also per that further simultaneous. Not our species body, not the other species bodies, but all things anyway. Therefore, our species body too, to an extent. It's a minimalist extent. But even where there is the smallest minimalist extent of the identity that is true always, and further positive onto itself, or negative onto itself. In other words, we have means to discern this, but those means haven't been replaced by styles, needs, and natures pretending things are debatable that are not debatable, pretending things are not debatable that are debatable, because the simultaneous nature, how the identity of all things has relativity to what is simultaneous, distinctly from what is hyper simultaneous. This is being worse than just obfuscated. And the difference of that is too. Beginning of the Old Testament says, per science, doesn't not ask anyone to believe, faith, or anything, but it says right here, where the names of the people of the sciences come together, in the part before it, only defend there. And then the part that says the tree of knowledge of life and the tree of good and of evil. I'm putting the of in. It says of good and evil. It frustrates me because I would put the tree of life and of good and the tree of knowledge of good and evil and of evil. Whatever. It's about good and evil. So how is a debate or science supposed to be accurate if it wants to have it speak about that and the story of Adam and Eve and their generation and the, in other words, in those unusual names of their offspring, their generation. I was wondering how to have a scientific debate about that when it says before that part in the Old Testament, it says only defend right here, where the names of the people, the sciences will come together in the part that comes before it. So there has been worse than just dishonesty regarding the part after that in that part of the beginning of the Old Testament. And the difference of that too is being measured and maintained, defenses of the religions and of the sciences there are defenses that are criminally foreign, tactically delusions wrought victims / hyper victims. But if we treat it that way, this is where it's relative. It's gotten away with because of also self-valued predicate acts with facts into databases and relative behavior racketeering worse than war crimes. Rolls with it. The kids and the adults of overt criminal enterprises and private ones, including ones associated with interbranch locations and families. They are shown that, like, for example, they need to change and fake and self-value, changing and faking the value of things like immaturity or adults, their difference. Those differences were also used, but also as collusions. So there's a trail of other collusions, but there's also, it's collusions singular too, by the breaching method involved, as the hyper criminally foreign influenced. Again, thank God I am not a lawyer, not a police foreman. I'm not a judge. We can get the judges to help us. But we have to get you guys are missing the wire crime action methods involved. The FBI and the police departments, plural, with the same house /S, have rules with whole wire crime methods. We've already faked and changed phone conversations to cover up how they also put me in fake conversations with the police at the police station when I was a kid and then as an adult, with the same ones involved with the Saudi attackers and worse, to keep here and there blaming other things, others themselves, for what it caused and keeps. Fake branches fall, but wall boxings, but they recede. In other words, we're supposed to address how our founders didn't have free speech. Otherwise, they would have been censored. We're supposed to address how James Madison's plan and the counter-extortion of the other founders, including the Native Americans and the rest of the citizens A through Z, still being counter-extorted by that method that still doesn't have free speech, James Madison's communications. Let it go. Free James Madison. Soul. The Constitution on a bridge and why and how we have rights are too numerous to have to list. Who disbelieves? Get the Connecticut branch from forging and switching names. There's only 3 branches of government, clearer than day, easier than cake. They kept them criminally foreign influence, tactical delusions raw, and the state offices of the judicial branch and of the corrections offices tied to the prisons. No, they have the audacity to use corrections and the name of their building. They are criminally foreign influence, tactical delusions raw. Uses of the names of the people, the sciences, collusion /S with that too, because of use of location /S that no one wanted. But everyone had exceptions for it. Straight tell, hurt and persuaded self-value. Only allowed. Otherwise, the body was censored, including if it was the majority of people, including if it was everyone. Any grouping of countries from that's trying to counter what it caused and keeps, just through keeping criminal and citizen's nature, fact treatment nature, quality aspects of nature, truth treatments, fact treatments, uses of it, sequence shifts, cover-ups. Mandated law says you don't change and fake what people say when they mention World Trade Center predicate acts. Who disbelieves? I'm not even a lawyer. You try to deny that. Read some statute. Criminally foreign influence readings of statutes, tactically delusions raw. In other words, let me show them how to litigate from the bench properly, because there's needs for it. There are needs for it. Please, Michael Cohen, if you hear this, or Midas Touch, you guys are doing damage control at bad. We're serious interest, and you're bringing it like these lawyers are sick. You guys are sick, making subject treatments, leaving out and changing exception nature. To an extent, but only to an extent, and the reasons of it, your motivations are being have in syntax. It's being haven't been used by remotely by the breaching method involved with the news refusing to get on paper because they attach me to fake conversations with themselves as roles with a whole bunch of natures of organized crimes and with the same people pretending to be against leaking, including as the whole Congress together and recorded collusions, cover up with it. Their kids, their neighbor, self-fired roles with uses of the right to lie, but they don't have the right to lie. That's how fake everyone has stayed relative to how critically important it is to get understood would put slavery sickly distinctly northern and south, northern colonies and southern colonies, for example, and where and how and why you don't leave witch trials out from what slavery was about. It's why and how there's a witch trial place next to Webb House, renamed now no Webb Stevens House. The nature of debate between that two employed about that, employed by the breaching method right through the people involved with it, not even knowing to themselves to an extent, but to an extent. In other words, same ones involved with the World Trade Center attack in New York City. So Michael Cohen and Meidas Touch, don't be cowards, and let's get the Wethersfield Police and the FBI, the rest of them involved with, and as the one I know the names of Robert Luskin. They're involved with wire crime acts and methods of Wethersfield Police, personally and professionally involved with crime scenes with that. And with the same house /S involved with them with that. Also with union places and names next to it, increasingly with names at Central Connecticut State University in the Britain, Connecticut, involved with a whole bunch of names that have been planting evidences intercities, and with the people on my street involved with them. All sides of criminal and civil. The intelligence community already messed up. Originally still. There are already all kinds of natures of collusion. Increasingly, the corrections officers has roles with body dumping spots, all kinds of natures of organized crimes, and uses of pretending motivations tied to the readings of statutes and precedents, criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw, as is another thing that nature shows us is recording. Having black people's whites of eyes, and this left out vaccines.